we will start with chapter 1. This is only for introduction part of the chapter. What are all the things in the chapter you will see. So we'll discuss it over here on the board, as well as there are some slides on which I have already given out some of the definitions and what are the requirements that you should go in the chapter. So we'll start off with it. Now, first of all, we'll go with the classification of the number. That you can see on the classification of numbers. If you can see on the slide, and when we discuss out this slide thoroughly, each and every number of that we will discuss out thoroughly. Correct. So see here what it says. How can we classify the number? This is one of the way. It is not only the possible way. There are many possible ways that you will find out, but this is one of the possible way. So the numbers can be broadly divided into two parts. One will be real number, another will be imaginary numbers. This real numbers will be what you require to study till your 10th standard, but this imaginary part will be there in 11th and 12th, and from there you can study it out. We'll discuss about that also in a short way, but we'll discuss real numbers broadly. Now, real numbers can be further classified as rational numbers or irrational numbers. All the definition parts are there that I will discuss with you. Irrational numbers. Then these rational numbers can be further classified as integers. Then these integers are followed up by whole numbers, and these whole numbers further can be classified as natural numbers. Then these natural numbers can further be classified as odd, even, prime, or composite numbers. This is one of the possible ways. It is not the only way, this is one of the possible way. Now, we will discuss out each and every number in detail, and that you can see on the other slide. So, just take out this slide. So, first is real numbers. Alright. So, definition wise, what about real numbers? Real numbers are the numbers which include both rational and irrational numbers. It's saying they include both rational numbers and irrational numbers. But what it is physically? Physically, how would you come up with it? So, actually, real numbers are all those numbers that can be represented on the x-axis, of your coordinate system. On the x-axis of your coordinate system. Basically, while you go up in 3D, it will be on the plane in which we are standing. Now it would be hectic for you to understand that. So you just take it that this x-axis carries all the real numbers, and y-axis carries all the imaginary numbers that we will see in our 11th and 12th standard. For now you take it, this is going to be our real line, and this plane on which we are standing will be our real plane. So this is what the real number is. There are many an examples. Here it can be 1.25 minus 1.3. Many of the examples are there. You can include all the rational as well as irrational numbers. Alright, we'll discuss that. Then see this next slide. The next slide is for imaginary numbers. Alright. Now here comes something different that you should know. Now imaginary numbers, the name itself says it is something that has happened because of human imagination. That has happened or that has occurred because of human imagination. Getting that? Like suppose, how would I have known or how would human have known that there is something in the space or there is something under the water? All that has led to the imaginary axis system, imaginary plane, which is either upward or which is either downward. So that's why these numbers are known as, which have been represented on y-axis would have been known as imaginary numbers. 1, 2, 3. All of them are imaginary numbers, and imaginary number is being recognized as root of -1, that is equal to I. You can see that in the definition. But the definition says an imaginary number is the square root of negative numbers and does not have a tangible value. Does not have a tangible values. You must know and you should find out what is the meaning of tangible. Alright. While not a real number. Further it says it cannot be quantified on the number line. There is another number line for it that I have told you. This was our real number line on which we are representing all our real numbers, and this is going to be imaginary lines. Right? Okay. Then see the next part. Next is rational numbers. Now here everything starts. What we have to study, what we have studied is starting from here. In 9th standard only you have studied about rational numbers, and even in the lower classes you have studied out. Now what about rational numbers? Rational numbers, see the slide. The definition says that it has to be represented in the form of P upon Q or in the form of fraction. So every rational number is in the form of P upon Q, provided Q should not be equal to 0. What happens if Q becomes 0? You must know, if Q becomes 0, the number becomes infinite. And we don't know anything about infinity. We can't say what is infinity. So, just for an example, if Q is equal to 0, that is denominator is equal to 0, and I am dividing 1 divided by 0, what would have been the value? The value would be equal to infinity. This is the sign of infinity. How we have got that? Just calculate it out. 1 I am dividing with 0. 1 times 0. 1. 398 times 0. Any number of time will be 0. 1 always remains over there. So that's why we are gaining infinity. Understood that? So that is why the condition is there. Q should not be equal to 0. If Q becomes 0, it becomes infinity. So that is what the rational number is. Alright. What the definition says, a number has to be represented in the form of P upon Q, where Q should not be equal to 0. And if anything is given in decimal, you have to convert that decimal into the fraction. Then and only then you can represent it and you can call it a rational number. Alright, so you should not leave something like 0.5 is there. We can't say 0.5. Actually 0.5 is a rational number, but we directly can't say. We have to represent it on the number line as 1 upon 2. It will be represented on the number line as 1 upon 2. Getting that? So see the next slide. That is of irrational number. Alright. So I'm just reading out the definition of irrational number. It says the irrational number are the numbers which are not the rational numbers. Irrational numbers cannot be expressed as the ratio of p upon q, that is as the ratio of two integers. Alright. Further, irrational numbers are non-terminating and non-reoccurring or non-repeating decimals. Meaning that a number which is not going to end after the decimal. For example, 1.01, then 001, then 00001, then 000000025, then 0000 and so on. Numbers are not repeating. You would say, sir, here it was 2 times 0, here it is 5 times 0, here it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times 0. Are these zeros are not repeating? No, they are not repeating. Because here it was 001. Then for repetition case it should have been 001, but it is now 5 times 0, then 1. Then 8 or 9 times 0, then 2, 5, like that. So such a numbers are known as irrational number. Many a times some of you take it mistakenly that this 0.3 bar or a number which is having bar on it are irrational. So if you mistaken with it, it is wrong. It is not like that. It is a rational number. It is rational. Why it is rational? Because to 0.3 bar, what I have represented it. You have studied in your previous class that we have represented it as 1 upon 3. That's why this is not a rational number. It's a irrational number. Getting that? So in this slide you would have seen the definition part, as well as here we have seen how we can physically signify them. Now the next one is, we are classifying further the rational number, and rational numbers can be further written as integers, and integers can be further whole numbers, and whole numbers can be further natural numbers. Now what about an integer? See the slide. In this slide we have taken the definition. The definition says an integer is colloquially defined as a number that can be written without a fraction component. That means on the number system, the numbers which we are representing, like this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. We have -1, -2, -3, -4. All these numbers are integers from, basically integers which is represented by Z, capital Z. It carries all the numbers that are represented, that are being represented without fraction, without fraction on number line. Getting that, everyone? So this is all about integers. Then now how integers can be further classified? Now integers can be further classified as whole numbers. These were all of these were integers. But what about the whole numbers? Please see the slide. Now whole numbers are the definition is something given like this. The whole numbers are defined as the positive integers including zeros. The positive integers including zeros. Further it says the whole numbers does not contain any decimal or fractional part. Now basically the whole numbers have been starting from zeros and it is moving further. So these are whole numbers that has been started from zero, and it has moved further. So 0 is the smallest whole number and rest further are all the whole numbers. That means we are taking from 0 all the positive numbers which are complete numbers. They are not being represented on the number line as fraction. They are represented on number line but not in the form of fraction. So all those numbers are whole numbers. Now these whole numbers are further classified as natural numbers. And what is the difference? You can see in the slide. Definition of natural numbers, it says a natural number is an integer greater than 0. A natural number is an integer which is greater than 0. That means, see here, if we leave 0 apart from whole number and if I start here from 1, then after 1 all the numbers, all the positive numbers which are not fraction are natural numbers. Getting that? And this is very, very important. Your MCQs, your fill in the blanks, they all can be built up from here. So please go with it thoroughly. Alright? So these are about natural numbers. Now further, whatever classification is there, it is on the basis of natural numbers. Alright? So we'll see the other part of the numbers. See in the next slide. The next slide says the first one is odd numbers. Now there is no specific definition I guess required for you, but still the definition says an integer that cannot be divisible by 2, that are not divisible by 2. Basically, if there is any number which is not divisible by 2, now we are talking about natural numbers only. Alright? So all the numbers which are not divisible by 2, that means they are known as odd numbers. So odd numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 and so on. All these numbers are odd numbers. Getting that, everyone? Alright. See, if you divide any number by 2, for example, in this series there is 35 or say 39. What comes over here? Divide it by 2. 2 ones are 2. 1. 9. 2 nines are 18. 2 nines are 18. Remains 1. It is not completely divisible. That's why it is odd number. The next is even numbers. Now you can see in the slide what the definition is. Basically, all of us know the definition of odd and even. If you don't know, please don't get confused. Do look over here and do follow it up. So, an integer is even if it is divisible by 2. An integer is even if it is divisible by 2. Not divisible by 2, odd. Divisible by 2, even. So, Examples are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 and so on. There are many of the examples. For example, there is a number 48 and we have to check whether it is a odd number or even number. How could you go up with it? Divide this 48 by 2. If it gets divides completely, remainder comes out to be 0. It's even. If not, it's odd. So 2 2s are 4. Here it is 0. 8 comes down. 2 4s are 8. Here it is 0. I guess you would have understood it easily. So this was odd and even. Then see the next part. Next is prime number. Next are prime numbers. So you can see it here on the slide. What this slide says, by definition, prime number, a positive integer. We are now talking only about natural numbers, that is positive integers. So a positive integer that is divisible by 1 or itself. Alright, they are going to be divisible by 1 or itself only. They are known as prime numbers. Now a series of prime numbers is there. Prime numbers. What you should know about it? Divisible by 1 and itself. So the series starts from 2, not by 1. Don't know about it. 1 is neither prime nor 1 is neither prime nor composite. So the smallest prime and only even prime is 2. It is smallest and only even prime number. It is 2. So it starts from here. So this series goes something like this: 2, 4, 2, 3, 5, 7, and like that. It goes over there. Then there is 11, not 9 is not there. 9 is divisible by 3. So the next number will be 11, 13, 17, 19, like that. It will proceed on. Then remains the last one. Composite numbers. So what about composite numbers? What are composite numbers? So basically the definition says, you can see it on this slide. What definition says? A composite number is a positive integer which is not prime. That means if I leave up all the prime numbers, then remaining numbers are composite numbers. But conversely, what about prime numbers? Prime numbers were the numbers which were divisible by 1 and itself. Conversely, about composite numbers, they are divisible by any other number. Getting that? So basically a composite number has more than 2 factors. So a number which is having more than 2 factors, that is, it is divisible by any other number more than 2 numbers. Which are more than those 2 numbers? 1 and itself. It is also divisible by some other numbers also. So such numbers are known as composite numbers. Alright. So you must know it has more than 2 factors. How the series works out? It starts from 4. Already I have told you one is neither prime nor composite. One is neither prime nor composite. So it has started from this. Prime numbers have started from 2, then 3, then 5, then 7, then 11, like that. So it starts from 4, 6, then 8, then 9, then 10, 12, 14 and so on. number system, how numbers are being classified. There are many MCQs and fill-up and one-liners that has been designed from this particular classification that could be easily designed off. So please study it out properly. Then we'll go further into the chapter. So in the chapter, the next thing which we have to study is Euclid's division lemma. Yes, Euclid's division lemma. Many of you call it Euclid's, some call it IIT. So it is up to you how you want to pronounce. So basically, Euclid's division lemma is dependent on our division algorithm. You can see it in the slide. What this slide says. Firstly, we have given the definition about lemma. So what is lemma? A lemma is a statement used for proving another statement. It's a statement which is used for proving out another statement according to Euclid's division lemma. If we have any two positive integers a and b, if we have two positive integers a and b, then there would be a whole number q and r that satisfies the equation a is equals to bq plus r. It was all mathematical language. There is one more condition associated with it, that 0 should be greater than this r, but r should be lesser than b. So r can be greater than equal to 0, but r has to be lesser than b. This is all mathematical statement about Euclid's division lemma. Now what it is saying? Try to understand it. It says, if I divide a number a by b, then q is the quotient and r is the remainder. It is exactly what our division algorithm says. What it said? Dividend is equal to divisor into quotient plus remainder. And it is practically proven, it is practical thing that this divisor is always going to be greater than remainder. Just take an example. Suppose if I have to divide 37 by 6, what comes over there? 37 I am dividing by 6. So 37 when I have divided it by 6, 6 are 36, remainder is 1. Alright? 6 are 36, remainder is 1. Now I will take the series after 37. 38. If I divide 38 by 6, what happens? 6 are 36, remainder is 2. Yes or no? Then 39 divided by 6. 6 are 36, remainder is 3. Then 40. If I am dividing 40 by 6 are 36, remainder is 4. Then divide 41. I have divided 41 by 6. 6 are 36. Remainder is 5. The next thing. Now if I am dividing 42 by 6, what happens? 6 7s are 42. 6 7s are 42. Remainder is 0. See here. If I have to divide 42 by 6, the quotient is going out to be 7. But prior to 42, it was 6. That's what the condition is. our remainder is can be equal to 0, but it is strictly lesser than b, strictly lesser than b. So here for this example I was dividing it by 6. 37 I have divided by 6, then 38, then 39, then 40, then 41 and then 42. So when I have divided up till 41, the remainder was lesser than 6. But as far I have moved to 42, the remainder becomes 0 and the quotient comes out to be 7 because it was completely divisible. So you must take care about it. Whenever you divide some integer by another integer, take care. The remainder has to be always lesser than this divisor. If it happens that remainder becomes greater than divisor, then your calculation is wrong. It's a mathematically, practically proven thing. So that's what the lemma says about. And how we are going to apply it to the questions? So in exercise first we are going to apply it to the questions for finding out the SCF. Alright. So that we have already discussed in our live classes. Now, this was about the starting of the exercise, how it has proceeded. Then next is condition of any exponent to end with 0. See the next slide. It says, now this was one of the important things. So this one question when it arrives and most of you make problem in understanding it. It's end condition with 0. Suppose I am having a very large number. I am having a very large number. 12 to the power of 18. And it's a very huge number. 12 to the power of 18, very big number. Has been moved to picto, something over there, not picto, it has moved much far than that. Right? And it is asking that this 12 to the power of 18, is it going to end with 0 or not? What the question says, is it going to end with 0 or not? So see this slide of condition of any exponent to end with 0. What is the condition given? For a number to end with 0, it should contain both 2 and 5 in its prime factorization. But prime factorization of this 2 and 5 does not contain 2, of any number does not contain 2, hence further thing is given about 25 to the power of n. So what basically it says, if for this example, if this 12 is containing 2 and 5 in its prime factorization, then definitely it is going to end with 0, otherwise it is not. So how you are going to tell that? You just factorize this 12. See here, if I am factorizing 12, this is 2, 6, then 2, 3, 3, 1. So in the prime factorization of 12, the factors are 2 into 2 into 3. So 12 does not end with 2 to the power of n into 5 to the power of n. It is not having this factor. This 2 and 5 should be there, both should be there. It is not containing 5. So how would you write it? It is not going to end with 0. There is an example also in book, 6 to the power of n. There is a question, 6 to the power of n ends with 0 or not? You can easily tell. Factors of 6 are 2 and 3. So 6 is not having factor in the form of 2 to the power of m into 5 to the power of n. Alright. or it is not having factors in the form of 2 to the power of n into 5 to the power, you take a and b better. In the form of 2 to the power of a into 5 to the power of b, hence it is not going to end with 0. It is a required fact that it has to carry both these two factors. If any other factor is there, okay, no problem, but 2 and 5 must be there. If 2 is there, 5 is absent, it is not going to end with 0. If 5 is there, 2 is absent, it is again not going to end with 0. Like the example in this slide we had 25 to the power of n. What about the factors of 25? 5, 5, 5. So, not going to end with 0. Why not going to end with 0? Because it was having a factor as 5 but not as 2. Getting that? Then this was one of the toughest part of exercise 1.2 over there in the chapter. All the questions we have seen in our live classes. Alright. Then you can move to the next slide. Yes, co-primes. One of the important things. Co-primes. See the slide. What the co-primes are. In number theory, what slide says? See what slide says. In number theory, two integers a and b are said to be relatively prime or mutually prime or co-prime. Now these are different names. Relatively prime, mutually prime or co-prime. So if the only positive integer factor between them is 1, that is what it says. If HCF of two numbers is 1, then they are primes. They are co-primes. Not primes, co-primes. So maximum HCF must be 1. If it is 1, then they are going out to be co-primes, otherwise they are not going to be co-primes. See over here everyone. For example, I am taking two numbers which are going to be co-primes. So first one is 7 and next is 17. Are they going to be co-primes? I will factorize them. 7, it is going to be factorized by 7 only. So factor is, for 7 it is 7 into 1. Then for 17 it is going to be 17, 1. This is 1 only. So for 17 it is 7 and 1. So what about the HCF common factor? Only 1. So the common factor is only 1. That means 7 and 17 are co-primes. But can you say the same thing, or can you say the same thing for two composite numbers? Can I say two composite numbers can be prime? I'll just take out. Can I say two composite numbers are co-primes? I would have to check out. For example, I am taking 65 and 81. Can I say 65 and 81 are co-primes? I would have to check out. I am just going to solve it. 65. What are the possible factors? 5, 13, 13, 1. Alright. So 65 can be written as 5 into 13 into 1. 81. What are the factors of 81? 3, 27, 3, 9, 3, 3, 3, So it is 3 into 3 into 3 into 3 into 1. What about the SCF? And what I have told you, if SCF of any two numbers comes out to be 1, then irrespective of the fact that both the numbers are composite, but still they can be mutually prime or they can be co-primes. Getting that? So while solving out the exercise 2.3, you must know what is the condition of co-primes. And do remember, a rational number can be a rational number. We can represent any number in the form of P upon Q. That is while representing number in the form of P upon Q. You must remember out a fact. And what is that fact? That fact is reduce numerator and denominator to its simplest form. Until and unless you have not represented it in their simplest form, you cannot say it's prime. Because at the condition of simplest form only, I can satisfy the numbers that both the numbers P and Q both are co-primes, and then and only then I can say they are rational numbers. Do remember this fact. Alright? So now see the next slide. See the next slide. Terminating and non-terminating decimals. Terminating and non-terminating decimals. So we are dealing with rational numbers only, but I have told you there were two types of rational numbers, of which first is whose decimals can terminate, that is their decimals can end up, and the other one is whose decimals are not going to be terminate. Like for example, the numbers on which we give bar, so they are non-terminating. But how would I come to know that whether they are going to be terminating or whether they are not going to be terminating? There is a simple condition for every rational number which is in the form of P upon Q and Q is not equal to 0. For every rational number which is in the form of P upon Q and Q is not equal to 0, what is the condition? The Q, that is denominator, it must be, if it is in the form of 2 to the power of n into 5 to the power of n. If it is in the form of 2 to the power of n into 5 to the power of n, that is only 2 and 5 are the factors then number is terminating. If suppose this Q is not in the form of 2 to the power of n into 5 to the power of n, even if these two factors were there and still any third factor appears, then it is not going to be terminating. Then it will be non-terminating but repeating decimals. You can see, for example, we are having, like there is a number 17 divided by 40. What comes out? If I am dividing this 17 by 40, what comes out? Just see over here. 40. See the factors of 40. These are 2 into 2, 8 into 5. So it is in the form of 2 cube into 5 to the power of 1. That is, it is going to be terminating. You would say, sir, how? See, here I am solving it out for you. Dividing 17 by 40. 0, 17. Point, this becomes 170. 44 times, this is 160. 10 remains over here. Because of decimal, 1 0 expands. Then 2 times 80. Then 20 comes out. Again, because of decimal, I can expand a 0. So 40, 5 times it becomes 200. Remainder is 0 now. See, the decimal expansion have terminated. On the contrary, if there is a number, again that is 17, and now it is divided by 20, take it 17 divided by 13, or better by 30. What happens in this case? I am dividing 17 by 30. So you can see 30 means this is 2 into 3, 6 into 5, 30. These are the possible factors. Now let us try to divide. I would check, because here 30 is having 2, 3 and 5. There is an extra factor, and that extra factor is 3. So what happens? When I divide 17 by 30, it is 3 into 10. So it becomes 1.7 by 3. Now divide this 1.7 by 3 and see what happens. I am dividing it by 3. 3, 0. This is 0. 1 comes down. Now the 17 also comes down. I could put up a decimal. Alright. So 0 point now. 5. This is 15. 2 remains. Then because of decimal I can put a 0. 6. 18. Again 2 remains. Then again 6. Then again 18. And this process will continue. It will be 6, 6, 6, 6, 6 like that. How can I represent this number? 17 upon 30. This is going out to be 0.56 bar. So it's a rational number, but it has non-terminating but repeating decimal expansion. So this was just an overview of chapter number 1. You can just see this video. Please follow it up, follow your concepts. Thank you.